seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat that I ain't taking, friend.
So this is Sabacc?
Sabacc.
The Block, the official first cut Star Wars show. We're doing it back and we're doing it live. I am here with a very special guest from a certain point of view. We have Mr. Jake Berlin in the house. What is up, Jake?
Not much, man. Thank you so much for having me on, bringing me back, and being the first guest in 2024. I'm stoked to be here, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited to bring this show back. I love talking Star Wars, and I love talking Star Wars to you last time we had you on. And I know I wanted you back because I know you're popping off on a certain point of view. Yeah. I know you have a lot of great Star Wars takes. I see it on Twitter, so I know this is going to be a good episode because you always bring some pretty interesting perspective and interesting takes in Star Wars, so I'm excited to get to it. First thing we're going to skip through the Star Wars story and we're going to get right to the Star Wars news.
Sorry, y'all. Give me one second. One second.
I heard a story about you. I was wondering if it's true.
So the first news we have today, and it's obviously a very tragic news, very sad news. It is the passing of Carl Weathers that happened just recently. We wanted to pay tribute to what Carl Weathers meant to the Star Wars universe. Obviously, he's Greef Karga. The Mandalorian was his show. He was such a major part of that show, and it was a passing that really affected me. But I wanted to go to you, Jake. Your perspective on what Carl Weathers meant to Star Wars, and what is a moment that you take away from him?
Yeah, it's tough. I remember I was at work when it had happened, or when it was announced, I should say, and the shock that just kind of overcame me as I read passing of Carl Weathers. Like, it's not something I was expecting, or any of us, just because we didn't know that anything was going on with him. And I think that's something that is being overlooked in today's, day and age, where his family was able to have that moment with him without the world being blown up about him being sick or not doing well or anything like that. It's a big bummer just for the whole movie industry in general. He was in a lot of big major franchises. He played a very big number of popular characters, but regarding Star Wars, it's tough because he's currently playing a character. We're not talking about someone that we have seen in the past, right? Where they were in the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy. We just saw him last year in The Mandalorian season 3, and we had seen him the 2 seasons prior to that. He's been at Star Wars Celebration. He's been outspoken about how much fun he's been having. He's been directing and writing and getting involved in the actual production of the show. And so it's tough on that end because we're so fresh or so used to having him in our lives currently. And it's going to be unfortunate to not see him as Greef Karga. I think Greef Karga is one of the most special characters we've been introduced to in a long time. And that's mainly because of the way Carl Weathers has played him. And you mentioned like a moment that maybe stands out to me. It's not so much a moment, but it's kind of a presence with him. I was talking about this on POV on Monday when we were talking about it. I will never not be able to hear the term Mando without hearing Greef Karga say Mando. It's just like it's stuck in my head. And it always will be now, especially just because he has passed. And so it's definitely a big bummer regarding Star Wars because it's so current in our lives. And, not to mention the fact that a Mandalorian Grogu movie was just announced and he was obviously going to be in that in some capacity. But yeah, just in general, I mean, he's been in my life for a very long time, Rocky and Predator and Happy Gilmore and like all these big roles that I remember him from. So yeah, it's definitely a sad passing and one that I was definitely not expecting.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what hurt the most. I think you hit the nail on the head as far as seeing him so recently. The fact that we do see him in The Mandalorian. This isn't, someone we saw in the original trilogy or something. This is someone we see in Star Wars now. And I think that's what affects us the most is the fact that he brought so much joy to audiences currently in Star Wars, even in his older age. And he's not in his, Apollo Creed prime. He's a much older man, and yet he gave so much energy and heart and joy. That's probably the thing I'll take away the most is his presence and his joy that he brought to the Star Wars universe in a time that I don't know if you remember this time, Jake. This was a time, obviously, that was the transition between the sequels and what we currently have now with the TV shows. A lot of people were skeptical, extremely skeptical, especially after The Rise of Skywalker, where there was a lot of hate and a lot of division. His character was probably our POV inside this show, considering Mando is 90% of the time covered in a helmet and, only says a few words, especially in season 1. He says like 5 words every scene. And we have Grief Karga kind of carrying each episode when it comes to the stakes, when it comes to the themes of the episode. He was there to kind of guide us through and tell us what was going on. And again, the joy, the heart, the episode he directed is like the most
so much
insane
fun.
Episode.
So much fun.
It is so insane. And you're just like, yo, what is this? This is crazy. And then you find out that he directed it and you're just like, damn, this guy was having a blast. It's so cool. I really am bummed. Obviously, I'm heartbroken that we lost him. I want to give a chance to RB3 to say a few words if you want to say something about Carl Weathers. I'm sure you were a fan as well, RB3.
Oh yeah, big fan, man. Yeah, this one definitely hurt when I heard the news. Big fan of him from not only Star Wars, Mandalorian, Rocky, but just as an actor and just as someone who was becoming a director. I mean, that was the part that was upsetting to me, is that he was just starting to get his chance and making that step up in his career. So yeah, man, it's sad, it's unfortunate. Great actor, man. Rest in peace, sincerely.
Yeah, R.I.P. Carl Weathers, an amazing performer, an amazing actor, and he seemed to be an amazing person as well. Shout out to him and prayers to his family. Hopefully they're doing well and recovering from this tragedy that came so sudden that we all didn't expect. The second round of news that we have is the one that's everyone's talking about. And this is the Gina Carano suing Disney news, which to me, if I'm being honest, I kind of want to brush over this real quick because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I want to give you a chance to say your thoughts on this whole thing. Obviously, I have my thoughts.
I don't think there's been a piece of news in recent memory that I've looked at and rolled my eyes harder and scrolled faster in my life.
Kept scrolling.
I can't believe that this came across my timeline. And the fact that it's also backed by Elon Musk is like just the cherry on top of it all. I don't know what's going to happen with all of this. Like, I doubt anything is going to really go in her favor, but I'm just wondering, like, why now? Like, this happened, like, everything that happened with her was so long ago. It was so far in the past. Like, why now? Like, what is the decision there? But yeah, honestly, I could care less. Like, it is what it is. I don't think she has any chance in getting anything or being in any favor with anyone. So yeah, I mean, good luck at whatever you're trying to do, Gina.
Yeah, this is theater. This is a publicity stunt if I've ever seen one. All you have to do is read the first line of the paper that I read. I don't know if you read it. It literally says like a long time ago in a something far, far away. And I was like, all right, this is not serious. This is just a joke. All theater for them to get attention. Yeah, the fact that it is backed by I refuse to say his name. Makes it even more clear that it's theater and that it's a publicity stunt for them to get attention, for them to get eyes, for them to try to start this campaign of whatever they want to do with their lives. It seems so bizarre and so out of touch with humanity and out of touch with reality that I didn't even retweet the whole and put my outraged or my ha 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 or the
scroll this.
I was just like, just keep scrolling, man. The fact that people have so much attention given to this is really baffling to me. I just feel like we're at a time where it's so grim in this world that people really do feel like this is what is defining our culture, when in reality there's so much more going on in the world that's more important. So those are my thoughts. I'm skipping right past that.
No. Well, let me just say real quick. You know what? Gina Carano, what her suing Disney's, whatever. You know what I mean? It is publicity, it's theater. The part that really bothered me though was when the great Carl Weathers died. The first thing that she had come out of her mouth, you know what I mean? The freaking anti-Semitic mouth. You know what I mean? Like, say, Carl called me as soon as I was fired, told me to keep my head up. Like, yo, you're using the name and face of a legend to try and back your stupid anti-Semitic brand. Listen, she's not going to see this because she blocked me like years ago. So, like, whatever. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, I take more upset with the fact that she's still using this situation, the fact that everybody and their mamas told her, don't tweet, don't post, don't say this crazy anti-Semitic, you know, anti-Black Lives Matter, everything she was tweeting, Nazi stuff, all that stuff. Like, nah, they told her, cut it out. She didn't cut it out, so she's facing the consequences. So, yeah, I hope they throw this lawsuit in the trash. You know, the only actor who I will want to see Disney or want to see win a lawsuit against Disney is Scarlett Johansson, because she didn't get paid for Black Widow. Otherwise, like, yeah, Gina, whatever her name is, yeah, you duns.
Yeah, I agree, and obviously Scarlett is on the rise for that, so good for her. Next thing we have is Stellan Skarsgård talking about Andor season 2. He's doing press for Dune 2. But now he's talking about Andor season 2. All he said was that he's satisfied with what season 2 does with its ending. Jake, any more excitement you have for Andor season 2 based off this?
I mean, I guess, yeah, I'm curious. Just, you know, there's part of me that's like, oh, well, you know, every actor kind of does this for every project that they're doing. But this is also Stellan Skarsgård, who I never really expected to see in a Star Wars, first of all. And then he absolutely just kills it in Andor. Andor is, in my opinion, the best written show out of any of the Star Wars shows. It's hands down the tightest when it comes to its script. I think the scenes are delivered so perfectly. And I really, really loved the first season. I was already like itching to see season 2, excited for it. So yes, this is going to make me more excited. I just don't know where it goes, because we know how different the second season is going to be compared to the first season, with the time jumps and, you know, how much kind of space it has to fill, because they're trying to catch up to Rogue One in, you know, such a short amount of time. But if it's anything like season 1, it's going to be great. The only thing is like, okay, we're getting to a point where we ask the inevitable question that we do with every Star Wars. We don't see them at this point, so where do they not continue on with their life? So I think that like something in that capacity is probably what he's alluding to, but I just don't know what. I don't want to see him die, but it almost feels like it's an inevitable thing with him. So,
I mean, he says it last season. He literally says, I burned myself to see someone else. He's like, basically like, I'm out. I'm going to die before I see the end of this. And shout out to him. I swear, if you rewatch Rebels or just rewatch anything that's in that kind of era, I forget what it's called. There's a name for it, the era. But it just the fact that Luthen Rail is just the biggest G in the entire galaxy.
Sick.
He's the biggest G. I swear, no one even knows. This guy is like in the shadows.
It's so
like,
cool.
Everyone owes it to Luthen Rail.
Yeah.
It just makes Andor like one of the best shows. I think it's the best Star Wars show, period. Except for maybe Rebels for me, but I feel like Rebels has a little bit more to give in those 4 seasons than maybe Andor does. But in a single season, I feel like this is probably the best. And I just can't wait for season 2. I'm really excited. The main thing I'm hoping for in season 2, and I know I'm asking for a lot, is the possibility for cameos. And I know I sound like a TikTok kid being like, I want cameos, but I just want to see characters that we know are in this era. Specifically, give us one Rebels crew member, Give us a Hera. Just we already have a live action Hera. We already saw her. Just make her show up for one scene and talk to Diego Luna as Cassian.
You have the makeup.
That would kill me.
You have the makeup. You have the ability to do it. You have the actors under contract for it. Sorry, my dogs are barking in the background.
Yeah, no worries.
No, I agree with you. It's pretty cool to like be entered into this world and realize this is the biggest, coolest guy in the entire universe. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I agree with you. I do think it's the best show, but it's not my favorite show. Ooh.
Can I ask what is?
It's very just Jake driven answer, but it's Ahsoka. Ahsoka just had if you know me, you know why.
Gotcha. That makes sense. All right, guys, let's move on to the green Psylocke for this episode.
If you'd only had this little green Psylocke.
So our green Psylocke for today is all about the Bad Batch Season 2. It is the next show that is coming up inside the Star Wars universe. I want to get your thoughts, obviously, on the trailer, and what are you anticipating for this season?
Trailer's great. Everything I expected it to be is what it is. I think this show has really grown into its own, almost like by each episode. The first season, it was good, but it obviously had a lot to do with, picking up with these brand new characters that people have met before, people who didn't watch Clone Wars Season 7, who didn't really get introduced to them with that backdoor pilot. And then the second season was just like, yeah, we're going for it. And they totally delivered on so many aspects. It's a very interesting time in the timeline that obviously there's a lot going on with the Empire. We don't know what is going on elsewhere in the universe just because it's everything Imperial. The trailer itself is great. It's playing to what I expected from season 2 and what I got, but it also has this kind of tone shift, which I love. These characters have gone through a lot. They have gone through a lot. They're spread across the galaxy at the moment. They've lost one of their members, technically 2 if you include Crosshair at the moment. There's a lot that I would like to see. I don't know if we'll get to because it technically is still so early in the timeline. We're not that far after Revenge of the Sith and everything that has happened there. But I do believe that this is kind of going to act as like the finishing touch of the Clone War era. I almost feel like it's like the closing of one book and the beginning of another. I don't know how these characters would continue on and what other story. I don't know if they need to. The only one obviously is Omega. Like, she's so young, like what happens to her? I'm so in on the idea of Mount Tantus. Like I'm so stoked to see whatever they do with this setting and how they play with it. And the trailer takes place a lot there, which gives me high hopes on how much story they're going to tell there. As much as I didn't want to see it, I think Crosshair is going to make a return at some point and they're going to get the band back together, especially after the loss of Tech. I think once Crosshair hears what happens with that'll kind of sway him a little bit. Yeah, I really love what they're doing. I think they have a great villain. They have a great idea with all these clones. And Mount Tantus as a backdrop in an era that we have no idea what's happening, which I think is such a great blueprint to give us something we've never seen before.
Yeah, because I know you mentioned some hopes that you have for season 3. Is there a specific hope that you're looking to see?
I mean, I know there's the conversation, and we just had it with the whole Rogue One Andor thing of like, oh, well, if we don't see them in the future, how much do they survive or who lives? I'm a firm believer that these characters will live on. I do think that maybe they'll retire on a planet and live their life out. I don't know, but I guess the one hope that I would like to see is that they do get a happy ending in a very dark time. I would love to see them get a happy ending because as much as Star Wars gives us great stuff, the majority of the time it's dark endings. A lot of the time it's not happy. And so I would love to see these types of characters who have clearly gone through the ringer, not only the events of what they've gone through, but they were essentially pushed off as like the fake clones who are mutilated and aren't cool enough to be in a regular army. So that's already one step of like, oh, they deserve something better. And then everything they've kind of gone through, I would like to see it happy ending.
Yeah, that's a good one. I also want to get your take on Ventress and seeing Ventress in the trailer.
Dude. So it's funny. I would have watched the trailer at some point, like when it popped up, because I mentioned before we got on that I'm not like heavily involved in social media as much as I was before, and I get to stuff when I can. And I actually made a vow last year to stop watching trailers in general. So, like for example, I haven't seen a single piece of footage for like Dune Part 2 yet out of this entire time. So, which I'm losing my mind over. But so I gave in on Bad Batch because I was like, look, this is a TV show. I've seen 2 prior seasons. I'm just curious being a teaser. But the funny thing is that Molly in our POV chat, she put it in the chat, and Ventress is like his second favorite character of all time. And she was like, Brian, watch the trailer now. And I was like, okay, well, what is that for? So I watched it. So there was already like a little bit of anticipation, but then they did the thing where they played the voice before they actually show the character. And the second you hear her voice, you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe they're doing this. I don't care what all the book nerds are dissecting about her not being alive and whatnot. I don't care. I love the fact that we're getting her again because there's so many possibilities with what you can do with her because of the time period and what she has gone through. So, I'm excited. I thought what they did with her in Clone Wars was obviously pretty magnificent on creating a character like her. It's just interesting timing there, Ace, with everything that had happened in Ahsoka. So I'm curious on what happens.
Yeah, that's my follow-up question. Is everyone's talking about this leading to a live action appearance for certain characters? Do you feel like that's where this is going?
Maybe. I don't know if we'll ever get Ventress. So I'll change my mind after I find out how she is to be in this show. If you've read Dark Disciple, you know why. I'm not gonna spoil specifics, but so I might change my mind once I see the actual episodes and her character and how she's involved in the show. I would not argue against seeing her in live action. I think that'd be incredible. She's so unique and different compared to what we have in anything Star Wars, not just because of where she comes from with Dathomir, but the fact that she's a Dathomirian Jedi, which I think is incredible. As far as the other characters go, I do think there's a possibility of seeing some of the other characters. Like I said, I hope we get a happy ending with the clones, the batch themselves, which if we do, I think we should leave them alone and let them live out their lives. The only character that I see currently from what I know after the first 2 seasons would be Omega, because she is so young. Like it's the Rebels effect, right? Like Ezra, oh, he's so young. Like, of course, we're going to see him in the future. Like she's so young right now and she's so relevant to what's happening. It would make sense to see her at some point in the future.
I'm obsessed with, I think I've tweeted about this a million times. I'm obsessed with the idea of a live action Omega. Yeah. I think it needs to happen for a lot of reasons. Like you said, I think it connects to everything we're currently seeing with the Mandoverse, if you want to call it that, or the Ahsokaverse, where the current timeline's about 6-7 years after the events of Return of the Jedi is where we're currently at with a lot of the shows. And I feel like it would make a lot of sense. And I think the perfect place to put her, if we can't put her inside a show, would be the Filoni movie because of what I've heard from it. Everything I've heard from the Filoni movie is that it's supposed to be this Avengers Endgame type film where just like a million cameos, everyone shows up.
Would that be though? The entire Mandoverse.
It'd be so cool.
It'd be so sick. I want
the entire Rebels crew shows up. Like
I want that Endgame scene, and I want Mando saying, "Hey, Star Wars assemble," or whatever he's gonna say. I want that scene with all these characters.
That's exactly what I want. When I first, I can't lie. When I first heard about this movie and everything coming out of it at Star Wars Celebration, I was so skeptical. I was like, come on.
Okay.
And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, how cool is it going to be to see just Mando come out with all these, like Ahsoka comes out, Hera comes out, Sabine comes out, and then at the very end, you know who's going to come out? Luke Skywalker.
100%. 100% he will.
He's going to show up at the theater, is going to go nuts. I'm just convinced, and I need to see Omega be one of those people that comes out with her bow. She's like older. She's ripped. She's buff.
Buff. That'd be sick. That'd be sick.
I just want to see. I think the best part of it would be a Maori actress or a Pacific or Islander actress, something that we don't see a lot. I think would be really cool. I pitched Homegirl from The Expanse. I forget her name. Right? Imagine her.
Who you're talking about. I know exactly
as live action Omega.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
And she's Maori, she's Pacific Islander. She fits that age range as far as like what Omega's age would be around that time period. And it would be just sick to see like this warrior woman come in with this bow that she has and just kick ass and be a part of the team and just show up and help. I don't know. I need it.
It's so interesting because now the question is going to become like all the super diehards who love to get into picket fights and stuff of like, okay, this is right after the Clone Wars, right? We're so early on the timeline. How does she make it that far? Well, if you pay attention to Star Wars and if you have Star Wars enough in your life regarding video games, comics, books, etc., you know that the entire time from now of Omega to Mandoverse, the Emperor wants nothing else but cloning to be the thing. He is fully focused on cloning himself, cloning everything he needs for future lives, etc. Obviously, it translates into the Rise of Skywalker. He's a clone, duh. So it would make sense because of that.
Makes sense.
Now now the only question is like, okay, how? Like, where did she go? Where did she end up? Who is she with, etc. There's plenty of ways that you can do that. Like, why weren't people asking the same question about Hera? Where was she during the original trilogy, right? Like, that didn't need to be answered. So why would you need to answer this as well?
Yeah, I need it. I just need it. And I'm excited for this movie, but I definitely hope that eventually season 3 of The Bad Batch will lead to at least 1 or 2 transfers to live action. So we're moving on from the green Psylop and we're going to go full Sabacc.
Full Sabacc.
So our full Sabacc is all about the upcoming Rey movie. I saw your tweet about this too. And this is my most anticipated movie. I'm just going to say it up front. That was another question I had for you later on, but I just said it. My most anticipated Star Wars movie is the upcoming Rey movie. What are your thoughts on everything we've heard these past 2.5 weeks as far as the discourse around it, if you want to get into that a little bit, but mainly what we've heard about this movie and what Daisy Ridley has said about it?
So I will back you and say that is currently my most anticipated as well. James Mangold's movie is very, very close, but just because we're getting stuff about this, I'm starting to get excited again. I'm really, really liking everything that I'm seeing. I think the online chatter, it's funny. I've kind of grown a little bit off of the social media game not strictly, but a lot of the reason why is because of Star Wars discourse. It's really, really bothered me how much like toxicity has kind of gotten into it recently. And this was kind of a central part of it over the last number of weeks. I love Daisy Ridley. I think that she was given a great opportunity and she ran with everything that she was given. She was a very young actress at the time who didn't do a lot, and she was told what to do and did exactly what she was told. And I think she gave us an incredible character who's going to live in Star Wars infamy, in my opinion. I think Rey is such a rich character with such great possibilities. I love that they're focusing on her for a movie, giving her a chance. I love that it's going to take a time jump, which I am so, so happy about. Kind of give us a breath of fresh air from everything that has previously happened and let us see her in her true element now. Because like, we have to keep in mind that those sequel movies took place back to back to back regarding timeline wise. Like the prequels, there's a huge time space that those movies take place in where we're able to see characters like Obi-Wan and Anakin, etc., kind of over a large chunk of time. We saw Rey so quickly. She is still so fresh as a character in the Star Wars timeline then. Now jumping 15 years into the future, I'm so excited to see where they kind of kick her off at. Like, how powerful is she? Where is she at with her training? Where is she at in her life? What has she been doing for 15 years? I mean, I have hopes and dreams, obviously, of what I would like to see. But I'm just excited. Truthfully, I'm excited to step away from the Skywalker saga and have something so fresh in a galaxy that is so big, with so many possible stories to tell. I'm just very curious on what the villainous threat is at this moment in time. It's going to be something brand new that we've never met before, like ever seen. At least I hope it is. I hope we don't kind of go back to what we've seen before. Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool possibilities with this movie. I love what Daisy's been saying about it. I think it's, to me, for someone who paid attention to interviews and watched like roundtables and quotes, and because I just love diving into that stuff, it feels like this is the most excited she's been since The Force Awakens because of how much press and publicity came after the success of Force Awakens, which is, very fair. But then she becomes a worldwide sensation. And then The Last Jedi happens, and there's so much bad turmoil with that movie, even though the movie is kept in high regard by many, many people. It kind of turns her off to the idea. And then everything that happened with The Rise of Skywalker, again, she needed a break. It was clear, but in my eyes, it's very clear that she's excited again, that she wants to do this, that it's right timing for this, and that she's looking forward to collaborating with someone who is fresh and new in a time era that is fresh and new.
Yeah, I feel like everything I've heard from what Daisy Ridley has said is that she's really excited for it. I think the only thing she said is that it's really cool. I think I heard a tiny bit of an interview where she said that it's not what she expected, or it takes a different turn. I think she said like different turn.
Yeah.
From those little tidbits and words that you hear from her, what do you think the story could be?
I mean, I hope it's not regarding like a dark path or something. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've seen that too many times in Star Wars anyway. I hope we don't kind of go down the same tropes that we've seen over and over and over again. And I think that's why it's a plus that we're stepping away from the Skywalker saga. Yes, she is living a living proof of the name. She took the name at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. So she is continuing on the lineage that is the Skywalkers, but it's not a Skywalker movie, which I love. We've seen her character have rage before, right? At the end of The Rise of Skywalker, we saw her kind of channel that into something that was very peaceful and powerful. So I hope we continue that. I'm just honestly like, I have no idea what a turn can be, because the only thing that we know of right now that is consistent of what we know with Star Wars is Rey. That is the only thing. We don't know who else is involved, if Poe or Finn or anybody else could be involved. We don't know what planet she's going to be on. We don't know if she's going to be in this galaxy because of what happened in Ahsoka. Like, there's a possibility. We don't know if she's training people or not training people. Like, there's just, and it's so early on, obviously, but there's so many like open threads that we don't know about, and people are still like debating over, and instead of like letting the information come out. I just want to see something that's really cool, that's really different, that plays true to the character of Rey. Because I think a lot of the time what happens with these spin-off movies, and I'm just, for the sake of the conversation, I'm going to call this a spin-off movie. When we take characters from franchises and give them a movie or another story, a lot of the times those characters are lost from what we have recognized before. We don't see consistency. I want to see consistency. I want to see the Rey that we saw at the end of The Rise of Skywalker on Tatooine, saying goodbye to Luke and Leia, giving away the hilts, getting on the Falcon and flying off. I want to see that character 15 years later, just a little bit maybe more mature, older, maybe has some friends, etc. But I want to see the consistency transfer over from those movies, and not something that's like just for the sake of it being different, giving something different. That's all.
Yeah, like a shock factor kind of thing.
Yeah.
I totally get what you mean. Yeah, I want to address real quickly, because I agree. I echo everything you say about the whole discourse thing. I made a whole thread about this last year. I had to mute that post, but I've been following this for a minute. Back when before the sequels came out, I've been following the discourse online, and I can trace and track every tweet that went viral and every communication that was set out for people to have outrage and for people to be outraged, even if they're not outraged. The amount of people I've met who have walked out of those movies and who I talked to after those movies, physically met people. I've talked to RB3 about this a million times, and they tell me Last Jedi was awesome. Rise of Skywalker was awesome. And then weeks later, months later, I talk to them again, and they tell me it's the worst movie ever, and how can there be a woman leading Star Wars? And I'm like, what? Where did this come from? So it is definitely a deliberate thing that has been going on for a very, very long time, and it keeps going. And it's something that I don't think should deter anyone at Lucasfilm or anyone at Disney or Daisy Ridley herself, even though it did in the past. Hopefully that can fade with time, and hopefully people can react to what Rey gave us in the sequels. And that is just one of the best Star Wars characters, period, in my opinion. As far as what I want from the movie, I definitely echo you. I want to see consistency in her character. I think it's going to be like not a physical threat. I think that's what's different about it, where she's fighting maybe a group of planets and their organization, and they're very traditional in their ways, and maybe they view the Jedi as a bad thing, and she wants to bring him back, and maybe they want to influence other people to be against her for bringing the Jedi. Something like that. Something that's a little bit more like communication and less like lightsaber one-on-one against the Dark Lord or something like that. I think maybe that's what she means.
This just popped in my head when you're talking about this, but I would love to see, and it doesn't have to be exact, but I love the stories that take a very powerful hero, someone who is very popular, big, clearly we know that can take on a lot. She took down, the version of Palpatine that we saw in The Rise of Skywalker, etc. But whatever she is doing, wherever she is, I would love to see a small scale story where almost maybe she has to save, a city or a town from some invaders, or, go into the criminal underworld and be a little bit of a, not like, because Rey would never do that, but something like small scale like that, where it's not, I don't need a galaxy threat. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't need a galaxy wide threat, because how many galaxy wide threats are we really going to have in Star Wars? There's I get that there's always going to be a threat, but they don't all have to be galaxy taking over threats. We've seen that in almost every Star Wars movie that we've seen to this point. It has been galaxy wide threats. And I don't need that. I need something to really stay true to what is happening in the current timeline. And whether that be, her saving a town from criminals, or, helping a friend do something else across the war or galaxy. I don't know, something like that. But I don't need the Empire coming out of hyperspace to destroy everything and her saving the world, or, facing the next dark Sith Lord, which obviously I like lightsabers, but I don't need lightsabers. That's not what makes Star Wars. Star Wars isn't just lightsabers and fighting and starships and all that. It's so much more than that. And I hope that they get back to that, because over the last 10 years, outside of the TV shows, the movies have really lost sight of that. And I think that's why people are more on with the TV shows at this moment in time, is because we are getting these small scale stories that don't have effect on everything else, right? They're taking these characters and putting them in places we've never seen before on these side missions or side quests or whatever you may see. And what's to say you can't do that with a big character like Rey?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting perspective, and it'd be a different movie to see from a Star Wars entry. So the last thing I want to do for this Rey section of our conversation is the reason why I created Full Sabacc. It was supposed to be like a prediction segment, and I kind of got rid of the prediction aspect. But if there was like a full Sabacc prediction as far as a character that we're definitely going to see from the sequel trilogy inside this movie, who would you go full Sabacc with or in?
I think there's two very obvious answers. And I think I'll go with the one that's probably more obvious than the other. I'm just going to say BB-8.
That's your obvious answer. I was waiting for it. I was like, the obvious answer. Yeah.
That's my obvious answer.
So you're going full Sabacc that BB-8 is going to show up in the Rey movie.
100% BB-8 will be it.
I'll go with the other obvious answer that people might be thinking of, and that is Finn. I just need it. I feel like a lot of people need it, and I need it. It doesn't have to be he's side by side and they're taking on the galaxy. It could be very much a cameo, 10 minutes or less, and I'd be happy, to be honest, just to see.
Question for you. I had this conversation with someone, I think, when the movie was first announced. So it's a two-parter. Do you want him to be a Jedi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or at least some form of a Jedi. It could be just a Force user.
Okay. And do you think 15 years later he would be, and it doesn't have to be these terminology, because I'm okay with getting rid of the entire Jedi terminology of what we know in the past, but do you think at that point he would be what could be considered a Jedi Master?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I felt just follow the Lego movie.
There you go.
They did it perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that movie.
I did.
That's it. That's Finn. He learns about the Force and he dives into it a little bit more. I feel a really cool thing we can see from Finn that we saw from him in The Rise of Skywalker that I feel like a lot of people forget. This is my Rise of Skywalker defense coming on. But is the fact that he was a leader, is the fact that Poe went up to him and he said, I can't do this. I need you because you're a leader, because you're a general. I kind of want to keep that going. Make him not just a leader of an army, make him just like a leader of a planet. Make him someone who leads people inside in a different manner.
So I think I thought of this when the movie was first announced or like during discourse or anything. You know, just we talked about how I wanted to see this movie play out. And now that I'm thinking about it over and over again, this kind of popped in my head a long time ago. I wouldn't mind if they did bring him back. It would be a little disservice to him in general, but it could be an opening for a possible project down the line of maybe they do have some type of, for lack of a better term, Jedi Academy. Rey is the one kind of leading the charge, right? She's the head person. Finn is maybe working underneath her or working with her, training people alongside her. She gets called away and we see like 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes of them at the beginning of the movie. And then it's her the rest of the time. And he stays back, but we don't see them the rest of the time. And then that leaves open a possibility of seeing him in the future.
Yeah, that'd be good. And then we could hope for a sequel and all that. Yeah.
Yep.
That'd be a really interesting way to do it for sure.
Because the reason why, just quickly, is because I really want to see Rey without Finn. Because I felt like the three movies, and it's not a bad thing, but the three movies, they were so connected, even though they weren't together all the time. It was because they came together at such a desperate time together, and then they stayed together because they meant so much to each other. I would like to see them separated doing other stuff separately.
Yeah, no, that's a really fair point. Let's move on to our Force flashback before we get to our squad up today. Our Force flashback is on The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian and Grogu is the new Star Wars movie that is coming out. I believe it is the first movie that we're going to see that is officially a Star Wars movie. We got our logo today for anyone who saw that. It's a logo.
It's a logo. But it's the exact logo with Grogu added on.
Yeah. But I wanted to get your take really quick on the upcoming movie and your thoughts on Mandalorian Season 3 and if you feel like a movie is a necessary step.
So it really does depend if we're ever going to get a Season 4. Because if we're getting this movie at the expense of Season 4, I'm going to be a little bummed. I'm an avid TV watcher. I think many people who follow me know that. I love television. I love story formats in television format. And I've loved everything, not everything, but I've loved 99% of what The Mandalorian has done, including Season 3. I've said it before, but everything Mandalorian, Mandalore, Beskar armor, etc., is my favorite stuff in Star Wars. They're my favorite group. They're very much kind of the old Viking way of Star Wars, which I'm pseudo kind of obsessed with. And I think that what The Mandalorian Season 3 did was so cool in introducing people to something that is so vastly different than what we've ever gotten in Star Wars. Now, we didn't get the whole picture because it's a time period where they're just demolished and there's minimal of them and we don't get to see Mandalore at its full glory, etc. Maybe one day we'll get to see another version of it, but as for right now, we don't. And so I love the idea of a movie. If we get Season 4, I have a feeling we're not going to get Season 4 because of the release date. I have a feeling what's going to happen is we're going to get Ahsoka Season 2 and then the Mandalorian movie. And like you mentioned earlier, it's a come together type movie where all these characters blend into one. And Ahsoka Season 2 will probably be the last thing we see before the movie is kind of where my head is going. Or maybe, but Andor will be there, but that doesn't connect at all. As far as what I want to see, I mean, I think the obvious thing is it's probably going to be against Thrawn and everything he's doing. I think Ahsoka, and Sabine, spoilers for Ahsoka, but they're lost in another galaxy at the moment. They're going to come back eventually, and she's going to need some type of help. She's interacted with Mando before. Mando has an army at his call if he wills it, with Bo-Katan and everything happening on Mandalore. So I think that's probably where we're going. But I'm curious because it is still called the Mandalorian and Grogu. So I'm liking it to what Captain America Civil War did, where even though it's the Avengers fighting at a German airport, Team Iron Man versus Team Captain America, it is still a Steve Rogers story to its core. That's going to do this in some capacity. I just don't know how. I don't know what they're going to do with them to make me feel like that. But the end of season 3, there seems like they're going to be doing missions for the Republic in some capacity. I just don't know how. And so I'm interested in finding out how it's going to be a Mando Grogu movie on top of being this kind of universe assembling movie.
Yeah, I kind of feel the opposite. I feel like this is going to be a completely separate story that doesn't connect to any other character. Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like that title is very much like telling.
I mean, I hope so. I definitely hope so. Yeah,
I feel like it's going to be literally Mando and Grogu on their last adventure, and they run into some pirates or something, or it's the same pirates we saw before. It's going to be something very simple and very low budget, in my opinion, because they want to make a lower budget Star Wars movie that's a much more simplistic formula than what we've seen before inside a movie, which I just think they want to try something different out. And then from there, go to the Filoni movie, which is going to be the big team up.
So I might be mistaken, and I guess I didn't do enough research because I'm offline so much, but this... Oh, that's right. There is a Filoni movie.
This is a Jon Favreau movie.
This is the Jon Favreau movie.
Yes. And I think it's just going to be a singular story of Mando and Grogu versus pirates. And
you know what? I'm with you. And I think this will be season 4. I think this is essentially
This is season 4. Exactly.
Yeah, now I'm with you.
Something happens, invades that little hut that they're currently in, and then they have to help a town out. The same thing we've seen in Mando seasons before, just in a bigger scale, lower budget movie that kind of wraps it all up very quickly so we can move on. I just feel like they're just testing the waters as far as bringing audiences
which I love. I love because why does every Star Wars movie have to be $250 million to make?
I think this will be, this will be like 80, 75.
Literally do season 4 in a movie format in every setting you have as far as sets go. Question, do you think we're going to see characters that we've seen before?
I think you nailed it when you said we could have seen a Grief Karga kind of tell him, hey, I need your help with this or something like that. But probably not, to be honest. Maybe Bo, but other than that, no, I don't think we're going to see.
No, like New Republic pilots or anything?
Maybe, but I just don't feel like I feel like they're purposely going out of their way to make this a singular Lion in the Cub in a movie theater.
I would love to see it. Yeah.
Or Wolf in the Cub is my bad.
Wolf in the Cub.
But that kind of mentality, that same formula, I really do feel like maybe this is Jon Favreau pitching that, where they say, hey, it's worked on TV, let's try it in a movie theater kind of thing. So
I love that. I would be 100% on board if that happens.
Yeah, I want to not ignore the comment section. I know that RB3's in here as well. Star Drew has been saying some stuff. He's saying that the Boba Fett story was good and grounded, and that maybe we can get Boba Fett and Mando team up again and Ming-Na Wen in there. Yeah, we can get a Fennec Shan. I can see Boba Fett showing up in the Filoni movie as well. Again, just the most Avengers, just everyone is there.
100%. Which I would not hate. I mean, he's my boy, so I would not hate to see Daddy Fett show up again.
That'd be awesome. All right, guys, let's move on to Squad Up with Squad Leader Ace. I'm excited to get to this one. This is our final segment of the show, but it's going to be a fun one, so tune in. The Super Bowl is this coming Sunday. And I said to myself, Jake is a sports guy. Let's do it. Let's make our ultimate Star Wars football team. Let's take Star Wars characters and put them into a football team. I'm going with the coach, the QB, the running back, a wide receiver, and a linebacker. And obviously for a coach, someone you can trust, organize, and strategize to motivate the players, a QB, a leader on the field. someone who has a killer arm and can lead the team downfield. We have a running back, someone who is not afraid to get rough and in the mud and fight through pain. A wide receiver is the diva, the stud, someone who's fast and can catch anything. And finally, our linebacker is the beast, the tough guy, the one who's going to get after the quarterback and push your offensive line to the side. Jake, let's do this. Let's build our ultimate Star Wars football team. Are you excited?
Dude, you put me through the ringer with this. I was so excited.
I haven't made any of my picks.
Dude, I was so excited for this topic when I read it. And I started thinking, I was like, this is not easy to do.
It's not. And I'm going to freestyle it.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably a couple answers that I've chose that are like the obvious ones. But to me, it's because I gravitate towards these characters a little bit more. But yeah, this was not easy because there are hundreds of characters that you can pick from in this universe. Yeah. I mean, you could pick any Jedi for any of one of these spots if you really wanted to, which is so hard.
Let's start off with your coach, Jake. Who is going to be your Andy Reid, your Bill Belichick?
So I came up with two answers, and I'm having a very difficult time choosing between the two. There's much more of like a high risk, high reward answer, but I think I'm going to go with the more solidified kind of guaranteed choice. And I got to go with my girl, General Leia. I think Leia is a perfect coach. She's not only a great strategist, she's a great motivator. She can easily steal the room when she's speaking. She's confident. She knows what she's talking about. She's experienced. So yeah, I think Leia is a no-brainer question for a coach.
That's a great one. I love that. I love Leia. I think my coach has to be someone who is all about strategy, all about X's and O's, and he can give a killer speech to like motivate you, but also kind of kick you in the butt to kind of get you up. You know, you need that coach who's kind of a hard ass. And I'm picking the only guy who fits all those things, who's 3 steps ahead of the game. I already mentioned it before. Luthen Rail is going to be my coach.
Nice. I love that.
Again, he's got the plans. He's got the strategy. He's a hard ass. Like that guy is going to yell at you.
But he's the Bill Belichick of Star Wars for sure. Yeah. 100%.
So I'm going with Luthen Rail as my head coach. Jake, who's going to be your quarterback?
This was the one that locked in almost immediately. It's the quarterback is your superstar, right? He's your number 1 overall draft pick. He's the guy that takes you to the Super Bowl if you're lucky enough to get there. And to me, there's no one more gifted, talented, powerful, and even swaggier in Star Wars than Anakin Skywalker.
Ah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah. I kind of felt I took this one differently. I took it as like, who's going to call out plays? Who's going to do the Peyton Manning? Like if they see something in the defense, they're going to change it up. Someone who's a strategist in the moment where they're in the heat of a battle and they could be like, I need to switch it up. I need to do something else. And who's also going to be someone who can just like laser lock in when it comes to seeing through the defenses and seeing what they're planning. And I thought no one better than my girl, Hera. Hera Syndulla is my quarterback. Again, she's going to throw that 65-yard bomb.
Love that. You definitely went the more Peyton Manning route. I went the more Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, gunslinger route on mine.
Exactly. But Hera is going to be my quarterback. Love that. And I feel confident that she can lead us down the field anytime. Now let's go to our running back. This is my favorite because running back's my favorite position. So who's going to be the hard, in the mud, tough, breakthrough tackles kind of running back for you?
So this character doesn't fit any type of running back mold, classic running back mold, as far as like a tough, just in the mud, down in the trenches type of character. But when I think of great teams, I think of great quarterback running back combos. Obviously you have quarterback wide receivers, but there's a lot of great quarterback running back combos. And when you think of Anakin Skywalker, there's another character that obviously we've seen a lot of recently that fits that mold with Anakin. So I got to go with my girl, Ahsoka Tano. Fast, quick, maneuvers, catching balls out of the backfield. Ain't no one getting that girl.
She's definitely the speedster.
Yeah, she's the Christian McCaffrey type.
Yeah, the Definitely. I could see that. That's a good one. I thought you were gonna say Obi-Wan. I was like, oh damn.
I know. I threw you for a loop there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, he's got the speed too. With the force speed that we saw in Phantom Menace. But Ahsoka's a good one. That's a good one. You're going with the speedster.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go the opposite route. I thought a lot about this running back one because I feel like I need to nail it. And I said to myself, who's someone who's fast but also strong? And I don't know why. I need this guy in there. And I know he's, not everyone's favorite, but I'm going with my boy Bosk, the bounty hunter. You need a Trandoshan. Trandoshans are reptilian humanoid.
They're down monsters. In the trenches. They're hitting that A gap right between the tackles, man. That's what they're going for, 100%.
Yeah, so I'm going with Bosk as my running back. Jake, your wide receiver.
See, this was probably the toughest one. It was the last one that I picked, and it came down to two characters. And quite honestly, I'm going with the one that I think is probably the cockiest out of the two. We've seen much more of this character in one format compared to the other, but I very much love this character deep down. I think he would be a great wide receiver, and I'm going with Ezra Bridger.
Oh, great one.
Yeah,
that's a great one. Yeah, definitely the talker and the loud one. Mm-hmm. I kind of went with that too with my choice. Obviously, he might not be as quick as Ezra, but I think he could bring the speed, and I think he could, get away from defensive backs pretty easily, even if he's just talking his way out of it. And I went with Han Solo as my wide receiver.
He's the Travis Kelce. He's Travis Kelce. That's what he is.
Yeah, but again, he's going to catch those balls. He's going to catch 100%. Touchdowns, going downfield. He can do it all. I believe in Han Solo.
It doesn't matter how he does it. You have confidence that he's going to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, finally, we have our linebacker. Again, someone who's going to destroy the offensive lineman and get to the quarterback. Jake, who's going to be your linebacker?
Oh, linebacker is arguably the most important position on any of the field, offense or defense, because they are an absolute core piece to it all. And you need someone who is absolutely just brooding, relentless, fearless. And there's no one better in Star Wars than someone who has been inside a gladiatorial ring, and that is Black Chrysanthemum.
Oh my God.
Yeah, baby.
You're trying to kill these guys.
Oh yeah, hey, you need someone who
the quarterback's gonna die
down 100%.
Oh my God, Black Chrysanthemum. That is like murder, bro. That's insane.
He fits the build.
That is insane. I love that choice. I thought of a Wookiee as well. Obviously, the main one is Chewie. But I still feel like, again, speed, power, a little bit of crazy. I'm going with my boy Wrecker. Wrecker is going to be my linebacker.
He's a great choice.
He's already a football player. I think he's already a linebacker.
Yeah, he's pretty much the prototypical choice in Star Wars, for sure.
Yeah. You need someone who's a little bit kooky, but at the same time super strong and willing to put his head down and just break through tackles and get to the quarterback. And that is going to be Wrecker. RB3, do you have any? I kind of want you to throw the wild card in here for a quarterback or someone you would want on your team.
Got it. Excuse me, my throat. Jesus, got to show a little love to the guy. You know what I mean? Chewbacca. He probably got the arm of the century, You need
he's
somebody
a good leader.
Tall. Yeah, you need somebody tall. Throwing the football. So,
yeah, I want to see a little bit of the comments real quick before we take off. Star Drew is saying Chewie is mine, wide receiver. Han Solo was a great catch. Give me a Wampa linebacker, says Curtis. I didn't want to do creatures because I was like, creatures. They're just going to run to the stands. And
you throw out a Rathtar and game's over.
Exactly. They're just going to start eating the fans. It's a whole different level. Mace Windu for a running back. Okay, I can see that. And then Raul Mendoza is in the house and he's saying Chewie's got the arms. Absolutely. Shout out to Raul for being here. Jake, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolute blast having you on. Where can everyone find you?
At Qui-Gon Jake all over social media. 2 N's because someone else took it before I did. That's Instagram, TikTok, X, Twitter. I do little short movie news clips and stuff all over my social media, and then I'm on A Certain Point of View as well. kind of like a pop culture entertainment podcast. Talk a lot of Star Wars, talk a lot of kind of main things that are happening over there. And that's certain POV crew all over social media.
Awesome, man. And you can find me at Squad Leader Ace on Twitter and Instagram, RB3 at Director RB3, and us at First Cut TMO, and right here at First Cut, our YouTube channel. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't done so already. But either way, guys, for the First Cut crew, for the Sabacc the Block crew, we're going to be peacing out. So peace, deuces.